When men were young, they chased love like it was the proof of life itself. But after 40, something changes. They stop chasing and start protecting. The years have taught them that every promise of forever carries a hidden cost: money, energy, and peace. They've seen friends lose homes, savings, even their sanity after one emotional gamble. And they've learned the brutal truth: that peace is rarer than love. So they retreat, not out of fear, but wisdom. They no longer seek a partner to complete them. They seek silence, freedom, and control. For men over 40, peace has become the last luxury worth keeping. Number 1. Protecting the financial foundation. For a man over 40, love is no longer a dream. It's a potential liability. After decades of hard work, countless late nights, and sacrifices no one saw, he's built something fragile yet precious: stability. His bank account, his house, his retirement plan. These are not just numbers or assets. They are proof that he fought, endured, and refused to collapse. And he won't risk all of that for another emotional gamble disguised as romance. Modern society romanticizes vulnerability. It tells men that true love is about opening your heart, sharing your world, and giving everything you have. But a man who has lived long enough knows those who give everything often end up with nothing. The statistics don't lie. The divorce rate after age 50 has doubled since 1990. After divorce, men experience a 10 to 40% drop in living standards and would need to increase their income by more than 30% just to maintain their previous lifestyle. That's not heartbreak. That's bankruptcy disguised as personal growth. Marriage, for many men, used to symbolize partnership. But after seeing how quickly affection can turn into litigation, they begin to understand that the real danger isn't being alone. It's being legally attached to someone who can destroy you with a signature. A man who has worked for 20 years to build his life knows how easily it can all vanish. A lawyer's letter, a custody battle, a division of assets decided by people who never cared about his journey. And that's when he wakes up. He realizes he's not being stingy with love. He's being rational with his life. There comes a point where emotional generosity becomes financial suicide. When he was 25, he thought romance was noble. When he's 45, he understands that naivety is expensive. He doesn't avoid relationships because he hates women. He avoids them because he loves peace. And peace, for him, starts with financial security. He's learned that every promise of forever has a price tag. And sometimes the only way to win is not to play. People will call him cold. They'll say he's lost his capacity to love. But the truth is simpler. He's seen what love costs, and he can't afford another emotional bankruptcy. Protecting his money isn't greed. It's self-respect. It's the wisdom of a man who has finally learned to defend the empire he built. Not from the world, but from his own misplaced optimism. Because after 40, every man realizes the same brutal truth. It's not love that ruins men. It's the price of losing it. Number 2, the supreme value of peace. At 20, a man wants passion. At 40, he wants silence. After years of surviving chaos, deadlines, betrayals, emotional battles, he realizes peace isn't a luxury anymore. It's survival. He's no longer chasing butterflies. He's building walls around his sanity. In his younger years, noise meant life. Laughter, arguments, the constant hum of togetherness all seemed romantic. But time teaches a brutal truth. Not all noise is life. Some of it is corrosion. He has learned that every argument, every emotional storm, leaves invisible scars. Not all of them heal. Some just make him quieter, harder, colder. So when he closes his door at night and breathes in silence, that silence isn't emptiness. It's medicine. His home is no longer a place to entertain or impress. It's his temple, the last space in the world where his thoughts aren't judged, his habits aren't criticized, and his peace isn't negotiated. When you've spent years walking on eggshells to keep the peace, true solitude feels like paradise. The modern man has discovered something no love guru wants to admit. Living alone is easier than managing someone else's emotions. Emotional labor, the invisible work of regulating another person's mood, has exhausted him in every past relationship. He has been the calm during her storm, the logic behind her chaos, the anchor she clung to while sinking him slowly. He's done being the therapist in disguise. He's done fixing what he didn't break. So he steps away, not because he's bitter, but because he's tired. There's a kind of exhaustion that no sleep can cure, the kind that comes from carrying two emotional lives in one body. And at 40, his energy is too sacred to waste. People romanticize companionship, as if being alone is tragic. But solitude is not loneliness. It's freedom from unnecessary noise. He doesn't hate company. He just loves peace more. He doesn't despise love. He simply refuses to trade his calm for chaos. In a world addicted to constant communication, choosing silence is rebellion. He's not hiding. He's healing. Every morning, coffee alone. Every quiet evening, with no one to explain himself to. That's not emptiness. That's recovery. He has realized something profound. Peace is not found in another person's arms, but in one's own control. And once a man tastes that kind of serenity, even the most beautiful smile can't lure him back into emotional war. Because after 40, peace isn't an option. It's the last luxury a man can afford. Number 3, true freedom and autonomy. At 40, a man discovers something he never truly had before. Freedom. Not the kind you shout about in your 20s, but the quiet, grounded kind. The kind that comes when no one owns your time, your emotions, or your decisions. For the first time, he wakes up and doesn't have to explain himself. He doesn't need to justify what he eats, where he goes, or why he wants to be left alone. His life is finally his, unedited, unapproved, and unapologetic. When he was younger, he thought freedom meant rebellion. He mistook chaos for independence. Loud nights, wild decisions, impulsive love. But real freedom, he learns later, is the ability to choose peace without guilt. It's not about doing everything. It's about not having to do anything that costs your sanity. He no longer lives under the pressure to perform, to be charming, patient, romantic, emotionally available. He's done being a character in someone else's story after decades of pretending to be the nice guy. He's finally authentic, raw, calm, and true. Psychology calls it authenticity, but he calls it breathing. In his solitude, he rediscovers small pleasures that used to be buried under obligation. Cooking for one, traveling without coordination, sleeping diagonally on his bed. These aren't signs of loneliness. They're signs of ownership. Every action, every choice, every silence belongs entirely to him. Society mocks this stage of a man's life, calls him detached, selfish, or emotionally unavailable. But those labels come from people still enslaved by validation. They don't understand that autonomy isn't isolation, it's power. Because when a man no longer needs permission to exist as he is, he becomes ungovernable. The modern relationship often demands compromise, not balance but surrender. Men are told that love requires giving up parts of themselves, that being a good partner means suppressing instincts, toning down ambition, shrinking to fit someone's comfort zone. But a man who's tasted self-sovereignty refuses to go back to emotional servitude. He doesn't reject companionship. He simply refuses captivity disguised as love. He won't apologize for choosing himself, for saying no, for guarding his space like sacred ground. Because he's learned that losing yourself for connection isn't love, it's erasure. There's a quiet kind of confidence that comes when a man finally stops needing to be understood. He no longer negotiates his values for affection. He no longer seeks approval to be himself. That's not arrogance. That's liberation. He understands now that solitude isn't emptiness. It's full ownership of one's existence. And once he's lived that way, even the most beautiful relationship will feel like a cage if it costs him that freedom. Because at this stage, love is optional. But freedom is sacred. Number 4, redefining life's purpose. At 20, a man chases women. At 40, he chases meaning. Something changes when he realizes time is no longer infinite. The same drive that once fueled his ambition now seeks direction, not attention. He no longer asks, "Who will complete me?" but "What will outlive me?" This is the age of redefinition. He no longer measures his worth by how desired he is, but by the impact he leaves behind. The thrill of conquest fades, replaced by the calm satisfaction of creation. Building, teaching, mentoring, leaving a mark that no one can erase. Psychologists call this stage generativity, the instinct to give back, to pass on wisdom, to invest in something larger than oneself. But for him, it's simpler. He just wants his life to mean something more than fleeting affection or fragile romance. He has seen how easily love turns into obligation, how quickly passion becomes paperwork, and he refuses to spend the rest of his life managing emotional turbulence when he could be building a legacy. He's not looking for another half. He's building a whole. The irony is cruel. In youth, he gave his best years trying to impress people who barely remember him. Now, he gives quietly, to work that matters, to projects that reflect who he truly is, to the few souls who actually listen. He understands that time is the only real currency, and he spends it like a king, with precision, not desperation. A woman once asked him, "Don't you miss being in love?" He smiled. "I miss who I used to be when I believed in it." He doesn't reject relationships, but he evaluates them differently. If she doesn't bring peace, if she doesn't expand his world, if she doesn't inspire him to rise, she doesn't belong. Love, without purpose, is noise. He would rather walk alone with clarity than walk together in confusion. His fulfillment now comes from contribution, not connection. From building something solid, a business, a craft, a philosophy, rather than chasing emotional highs that vanish overnight. He has outgrown temporary validation. He doesn't need to be seen anymore. He needs to matter. When a man reaches this level of consciousness, his relationships change naturally. He stops asking for understanding and starts demanding alignment, because he knows the wrong companion doesn't just waste your time. She derails your purpose. At 40, he's not afraid of dying alone. He's afraid of dying without leaving anything worth remembering. And that's why, when love knocks on his door now, it must come with depth, not decoration. Because at this stage, he no longer wants to be adored. He wants to be useful. And that makes him more dangerous and more free than ever before. Number 5, The harsh reality of modern dating used to be simple. Two people met, talked, and built something real. Now, it's an algorithm, a marketplace of illusions where everyone is shopping for validation, not connection. And for men over 40, it feels less like romance and more like unpaid emotional labor. He opens an app and sees 1,000 faces, but no souls. Everyone's looking for something genuine, yet no one seems capable of being genuine. Conversations start with charm and end with silence. One day she's pouring her heart out. The next, she disappears without a trace. Ghosting has become the new way of saying, "I found someone shinier." Modern dating isn't about love, it's about attention economics. It rewards those who perform, not those who commit. It punishes sincerity and glorifies pretense. A man who has lived long enough sees the pattern. Every conversation feels like a job interview for a role he doesn't even want anymore. He's tired of pretending to care about meaningless small talk, of decoding emojis like hieroglyphs, of being the therapist, the savior, the provider, for women who mistake chaos for personality. He's not cynical. He's just exhausted. He remembers when connection meant depth, when you could sit in silence and still feel close. Now, silence is seen as disinterest, and depth as a red flag. In a world that worships dopamine, real intimacy feels obsolete. So he logs off. Not out of bitterness, but clarity. He realizes something profound. Peace is more romantic than constant uncertainty. He would rather spend his evening reading in quiet than texting someone who only half cares. He would rather wake up alone than next to someone who makes him feel lonelier. Men over 40 have lived enough to see behind the curtain. They know that modern dating is less about partnership and more about power. Who texts first? Who cares less? Who can pretend longer? But when you've already lost and rebuilt yourself, those games no longer amuse you. He's not looking for perfection anymore. He's looking for peace. And when he measures every new interaction by that standard, most modern relationships disqualify themselves immediately. Because love today demands constant validation, and he no longer has the energy to audition. He's done chasing affection that feels transactional. He's done negotiating his worth in a marketplace of distraction. When he chooses solitude, it's not loneliness. It's protection. Protection from chaos, from emotional games, from the endless noise of people who mistake attention for intimacy. The modern dating scene may call him detached, but he knows the truth. He's not detached. He's free. Free from false promises. Free from performative love. Free from the exhausting cycle of proving his value to people who don't even know their own. And that's why, when given the choice between peace and partnership, he chooses peace every single time. In the end, peace is the ultimate luxury and the rarest form of love a man can give himself. It's not about rejecting connection, but about refusing chaos disguised as affection. A man who has walked through betrayal, noise, and loss doesn't crave excitement anymore. He craves clarity. He doesn't want a love that demands constant performance. He wants quiet mornings, honest silence, and freedom from emotional noise. That's not bitterness, that's wisdom. Because real strength is not in chasing love, it's in mastering solitude. So if you've ever chosen peace over partnership, you're not running away. You're awakening. And maybe, just maybe, this world needs more men who choose peace unapologetically. If this message speaks to you, share it. Leave a comment. Hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Because more men need to hear the truth no one else dares to say.